Welcome everybody to Algebra 2 CST release question number 95. It says a small business owner must hire seasonal workers as the need arises. The following list shows the number of employees hired monthly for a 5-month period. So that first month, 4 employees hired, and then 13, and then 5, 6, and 9 respectively. It says if the mean of these data is approximately 7, what is the population standard deviation for these data? We're supposed to round our answer to the nearest tenth. And so to figure out standard deviation, we use this as a symbol for standard deviation. We're talking about it's the sum of the deviations from the mean, sum of deviations squared. So we're supposed to take that, sum of deviations squared, the square of those values. I should be a little more careful when I do that. It's the sum of deviations squared. So we're supposed to, if I say it's the sum of deviations squared, then I'm taking the sum of the deviations and squaring that. But if I say it's the sum of the deviations squared, that's what I actually need to do. So sum of deviations squared over the number of terms you have here. So over the number of terms, which is going to be 5 right here. And so from there, we can figure out our standard deviation. Here I'm going to put some columns here. We need to do this kind of work, especially without a calculator. We'll need to do this kind of work to figure out what the sum of the deviations squared is. So right here, I'm putting my scores. My data, I should say. This isn't really a score, it's my employees hired. So, yay, I scored 4 employees this week or this month. No, this will be my data value. Okay, so 4, 13 data values, 4, 13, 5, 6, and 9. And then over here, we're going to find our deviations. And then over here, we're going to take the deviations and square them. It'll be the deviation squared values. What we need to plug in right here is the sum of these particular values. This is the deviations from the mean, is another way to think about that. And so it tells us that the mean is approximately 7. We should use this then. When I add these up, I actually get 17, 22, 28, 37. 37 divided by 5 isn't exactly 7. It's a little bit more, but they say to use this, so we're going to use approximately 7. So we have from the mean, the standard deviation, 4 is 3 under 7. So I'm going to put minus 3 after the 4, or with the 4 in that row. 13 is 6 more. So I'm going to put a positive 6 there. 5 is 2 less. So I'll put a negative 2. 6 is 1 less. And then 9 is 2 more. If I take all these values, though, and square them, let's see what I get. They'll all be positive, because negative times a negative will be positive. Positive times positive will still be positive. I'd have 9 is negative 3 squared. 6 squared is 36. Negative 2 squared is 4. Negative 1 squared is 1. And 2 squared is 4. Put that all together. Looks like 9 plus 36, that's 45, and 49, 50, 54. So the sum of the deviations squared, that's this value right here. That's going in right there. And so this becomes 54 over number of terms. You have 5 terms up here. So 54 over 5, that's the square root of, we can think of 5 going into here 10 whole times with 4 left over, so 4/5. 1/5 is 0.2, so we should know that 4/5 then is 0.8. And then from there, looking at these data values, the only one that really makes any sense at this point is choice A, because that's the only one that's going to come close here. If you take the square root of this number, what number times itself, in other words, is going to come close to 10.8. If we do the math on that real quick, 3.3 times 3.3, we'd have a 9 and a 9. You'd have a 0 or an x there, and then another 9 and a 9. Putting those things together, you'd have a 9, and you'd have, this would be 18. You'd carry the 1, you'd have 10.89, very close to this value right here. There's going to be some rounding error since we don't have calculators. We can't figure these things out exactly. But this is, you can see 3.3 times 3.3 is very close to 10.8, and the square root of 10.8 is what the standard deviation is. So the answer for number 95 should be choice A.